7 years is a long time. It's 2,556 days, 61,344 hours. It's a lifetime of things left unsaid. She called every Sunday, without fail, rain or shine, holiday or workday. She called because that's what mothers do. They hold the line. And every Sunday, for 7 years, the phone rang in an empty house, or a house that felt empty, because he never picked up, not once. This is the story of a son who won an argument and lost his world. To understand the end, we have to go back to the beginning, to Millbrook. Millbrook was a town where time seemed to move slower. Population 4,200. A place where your last name told people everything they needed to know about your future. For the Carters, the future was written in iron and wood. Established in 1962, 3 generations had stood behind that counter. Same building, same name, same weight. Daniel was the only son, the inheritor who didn't want to inherit. He was a boy who looked at the horizon while his father looked at the inventory. Daniel had a mind for structures, not just how to fix them, but how to imagine them. He didn't want to sell the nails. He wanted to design the world they held together. Robert was a man of certainties. He believed a man was defined by his roots and his work. To him, the hardware store wasn't a business. It was a sacred trust. And then there was Elena, the bridge, the one who spoke the words the men couldn't. She knew the tension was building, like a storm on a hot summer evening. Breakfast was a ritual of quiet. Robert would check the ledger. Daniel would check his watch. Elena would watch them both, hoping today wouldn't be the day. He'd graduated top of his class. Architecture. Offers from the biggest firms in Chicago. It was the moment he'd worked for since he was a child. He was ready to fly. But his father needed him. Robert had a surgery, a slow recovery. Daniel stayed for a month. Then 2. Then 2 years. The dreams were buried in a drawer, waiting for permission. Resentment is like a slow-growing vine. It doesn't happen overnight. It wraps around the heart, tightening a little more every time a dream is deferred, every time a thank you isn't said. It happened on a Tuesday, a slip of the hand, a fall from the wall. The family photograph, the one taken at the store's 50th anniversary, hit the floor. Elena apologized, but Robert didn't look up from his ledger. "It's just glass," he said. But Daniel saw something else. He saw a prophecy in the shards. That night, the vine finally snapped. Daniel packed his bags, not with anger, but with a cold, hard certainty. He was leaving. Tonight. He just had to survive the kitchen. He could hear them, the low hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock, the sound of his own breathing. He walked into the kitchen with a weight in his chest. "I'm leaving." The words were small, but they filled the room. Robert didn't move. He didn't even put down his cup. The air in the kitchen felt thin, almost impossible to breathe. "Chicago." The firm called again. "I start in 2 weeks. I've already signed the lease." He waited for a congratulations. He waited for a "we'll miss you." He got neither. "You're abandoning us," Robert roared. "Everything I built for you, everything your grandfather built, you're throwing it away for a city that doesn't know your name." "I'm not throwing it away, Dad. I'm living my own life. You never asked what I wanted. You just decided my life was an extension of yours." The first grenade had been thrown. "I sacrificed everything for this family." Robert spat. "I stayed in this town, in this store, so you could have a life. And this is how you pay me back? With betrayal? Nobody asked you to sacrifice your life for me. You did it for yourself, because you were too afraid to leave. And now you want to make your fear my cage." It was the truth Robert couldn't bear. If you walk out that door tonight, if you choose that city over this family, then don't ever come back. Not for a visit, not for a holiday. You'll be dead to me. Elena tried to speak, but her voice was a whisper in a hurricane. Daniel didn't blink. Pride is a powerful drug. It makes the unthinkable feel necessary. "Fine," Daniel said. "Consider me gone." The door didn't just close. It sealed. 7 years of family history were locked inside that house, and Daniel was on the outside, He didn't look back. He couldn't. He drove into the night, toward the lights of Chicago. He felt free. He felt powerful. He felt like he'd finally won. But he had no idea what victory would actually cost. Elena stayed in that kitchen long after the taillights faded. She knew that night wasn't just an argument. It was a funeral for a family that was still alive. And she knew she'd be the one holding the line. Daniel was right to chase his dream, but he was wrong about the way he did it. It would take 7 years of silence for him to understand the difference. Daniel didn't look back. He drove toward a city of glass and steel, a city that didn't know his name or his history. In Chicago, he wasn't Robert Carter's son. He was just Daniel, and he loved it. He was good, better than he'd even hoped. Within a year, his designs were winning awards. His name was on the letterhead of a firm he'd only dreamed of. He was building the world, one skyscraper at a time. Everything he wanted was finally within reach. The success was sweet. The pride was intoxicating. He'd proven his father wrong. He didn't need the hardware store. He didn't need Millbrook. But every Sunday, the phone would ring. 6 p.m., like clockwork. Elena didn't send angry texts. She didn't leave bitter messages. She just called, and he just didn't answer. 52 Sundays. 52 missed connections. The second year felt a little different. The high of the move was wearing off, and the silence from home was starting to feel less like a victory and more like a weight. But his pride was still the captain of his ship. He heard about the surgery through a voicemail he never acknowledged. Part of him wanted to dial. Part of him wanted to ask if he was okay. But then he remembered the kitchen. Don't come back. Pride won again. Time has a way of turning a choice into a habit. The silence became his normal. He stopped even thinking about picking up. The Sundays became just another day. Until year 7. The voice on the other end didn't sound like his mother anymore. It sounded small, fragile. Danny, I need you to come home. For the first time in 2,556 days, Daniel reached for the phone. But he was too slow. The line went dead. It wasn't his father. It was the chief of staff. Stage 4. She'd known for 18 months. She hadn't told him because he wasn't answering. The silence he'd built for his father had ended up isolating his mother. He didn't pack a bag. He didn't call his office. He just ran. Every minute of the 6-hour drive felt like a century. He was right to leave, his pride whispered. But his heart was shouting that he was wrong to stay away. Millbrook hadn't changed, but Daniel was a different man. He ran through those familiar doors, the smell of antiseptic hitting him like a physical blow. He was terrified he was too late to say the only thing that mattered. She looked like a bird that had lost its flight. So small, so fragile. Robert was there, in the corner, looking like a man who had already lost. Daniel couldn't breathe. "Hi, Mom," he whispered. "Danny," she said. Just his name. It was enough. 7 years of distance, 7 years of missed Sundays, and in that one touch, they were gone. She'd waited for him. She'd held the line. "Don't leave him alone, Danny," she whispered. "He was wrong to say what he said, but you were wrong to stay silent. You were punishing him, but you were also punishing yourself." Her wisdom was the mirror he finally had to look into. Robert had left the room. He couldn't look at Daniel. The pride that had built the hardware store was now the wall between them. Daniel stayed with his mother until she fell asleep. Then, he went to find the man who had disowned him. He found him in the chapel, not praying, just sitting. Robert looked older than his years. The weight of the store, the weight of the silence, it had carved deep lines into his face. Daniel took a breath and walked forward. He sat down, not too close, but close enough. He could hear his father's ragged breathing. For 7 years, they had been shouting in the dark. Now, there was nothing left to shout. The silence had finally run out of things to say. "I closed the store," Robert said. His voice was rough, like gravel. "Last month. Couldn't do it anymore. Not without someone to give it to." It wasn't an apology. It was an admission of defeat. And it was more than Daniel expected. "I built 17 buildings, Dad. 17. And not one of them felt like home. I won the argument. I built my life, but I was so busy being right that I forgot how to be a son. The armor was finally falling off. I'm sorry, Daniel said, the words he'd refused to say for 2,556 days. Robert looked at him, his face cracking with emotion. Me too, he whispered. It took 7 years for those 4 words to find their way home. She lived for 3 more weeks, long enough to see them talk, long enough to hear the laughter return to the room. She'd held the line long enough to see the 2 men she loved cross back over it. She died at sunset, with both their hands in hers. A year passed. Daniel stayed in Millbrook. He didn't go back to the skyscrapers. Instead, he built something else. A community center, a place for the town to gather. And on the ground floor, the hardware store was still open. They rebuilt the store together. Third generation meets new ideas. Robert learned that a legacy isn't something you force, it's something you share. And Daniel learned that building a home is more important than building a monument. In the heart of the center, her photo remains. A reminder of the bridge that didn't break. Daniel realized that she hadn't just been calling to say hi. She'd been calling to remind him that he was loved, even when he was wrong. Especially when he was wrong. The Sundays are different now. The phone still rings at 6 p.m. But now, it's answered on the first ring. Hey, Dad. Just calling to say hi. The words are simple, but they are the most powerful things they've ever built. Daniel was right to chase his dream, but he learned that carrying a grudge is like carrying a bag of stones. It only slows you down. Pride doesn't protect you. It just keeps you lonely. So, I ask you today, who are you not calling? Whose voice are you missing because you're busy being right? Don't wait 7 years. Don't wait for a hospital call. Some lines are too precious to let go. Silence can be a weapon, or it can be a sanctuary. Choose wisely, because eventually, the phone stops ringing forever. Answer while you still can.